Ever wondered why a perfectly cooked steak tastes so good? Today we're diving into the fascinating world of scientific cooking, lifting the lid on the secret behind that mouth-watering steak. We'll journey through the Maillard reaction, discover the finest cuts, and explore the crucial role of temperature control. From preparation steps to the final presentation, we'll uncover each layer of the perfect steak. So, if you're ready to become a steak master, stay tuned. To understand how to cook the perfect steak, we first need to understand the science behind it. The magic that transforms a raw piece of meat into a juicy, flavorful steak is largely due to a chemical reaction known as the Maillard reaction. This is a process where heat causes proteins and sugars in the meat to react and break down, creating a complex mix of flavors, aromas, and that appealing brown crust. The Maillard reaction typically begins at around 310 degrees Fahrenheit, which is why a high heat is necessary for that beautiful sear. And this reaction doesn't just happen on the surface of the steak, but also within the meat itself, enhancing its flavor throughout. But the Maillard reaction isn't the only important factor. The quality of the meat plays a significant role too. When choosing a steak, look for one with good marbling. That's the white flecks of fat within the meat. This fat melts during cooking, helping to keep the steak juicy and adding to its flavor. Lastly, let's not forget the importance of seasoning. A little salt can go a long way in enhancing the natural flavors of the steak. Sprinkle it on generously before cooking, and it will help to create a delicious crust on the outside of your steak, further amplifying the effects of the Maillard reaction. Now that we've covered the science, it's time to get cooking. The first step in cooking a perfect steak is in the preparation. It begins with selecting the right cut. Whether you prefer a ribeye, a filet mignon, or a T-bone, remember that each cut has its unique flavor and texture profile. A good steak should have a nice marbling of fat throughout. This fat will melt during cooking, infusing the meat with flavor, and ensuring a juicy, tender finish. Next we move on to temperature. It's crucial that your steak is at room temperature before it hits the pan or grill. This is because a cold steak will cook unevenly, leaving you with an overcooked exterior and an undercooked interior. So, take your steak out of the fridge at least an hour before you plan to cook it. Finally, let's talk seasoning. Seasoning is more than just slapping on some salt and pepper, it's an art. A generous amount of salt and pepper is a good start, but feel free to get creative. Fresh herbs, garlic, and a bit of olive oil can all add layers of flavor. Remember, the seasoning should enhance the natural flavors of the steak, not overpower them. And there you have it. The right cut, room temperature, and proper seasoning. These three simple steps are the foundation of a perfectly cooked steak. With these preparation steps, you're ready to start cooking. Now, let's dive into the different cooking techniques for a perfect steak. Each method has its own charm, and the choice depends on your personal preference and the tools at your disposal. First up is grilling. This method is a favorite for many, especially during the warmer months. Grilling imparts a unique, smoky flavor to the steak that's hard to replicate with other methods. The key to grilling is managing your heat zones. You want a hotter zone to sear the steak and create that beautiful, flavorful crust, and a cooler zone to let the steak finish cooking to your desired level of doneness. Next, we have pan-searing. This method is ideal for those crisp winter days when you prefer to stay indoors. For pan-searing, a well-seasoned cast iron skillet is your best friend. Start with a hot pan to sear the steak and create a delicious crust, then lower the heat to finish cooking it. The constant temperature control is crucial here. You don't want your steak to burn, nor do you want it undercooked. Now, if you're a fan of precision, you might want to try sous-vide. This method involves sealing the steak in a bag and cooking it to a precise temperature in a water bath. It allows for an unparalleled level of control over the cooking process, ensuring your steak is cooked exactly to your liking every single time. After the sous vide process, the steak is usually finished with a quick sear in a hot pan to develop the crust. Regardless of the method you choose, one thing remains constant: the importance of temperature control. Overcooking your steak can lead to a tough and flavorless piece of meat, while undercooking it can pose health risks. Invest in a good meat thermometer and use it to check the internal temperature of your steak. A medium-rare steak, for instance, should be around 130 to 135 degrees Fahrenheit in the center. And there you have it, the science of cooking the perfect steak. Each method brings something unique to the table. Grilling gives you a smoky flavor, pan-searing provides a wonderful crust, and sous vide offers precision like no other. The choice is yours to make. Remember, practice makes perfect. Don't be disheartened if your first few attempts aren't perfect. As you gain experience, you'll start to understand the nuances of each method and how to adjust them to your liking. And in the end, that's what cooking is all about: understanding, experimenting, and most importantly, enjoying the process. After your steak is cooked, don't dig in just yet. Here's a golden rule of steak cooking: let it rest. But why? Well, resting allows the juices to redistribute throughout the steak. If you cut into it right away, the juices will flow out, leaving you with a dry steak. But give it a breather, say about 5 to 10 minutes, and the moisture gets reabsorbed, resulting in a juicy, flavorful steak. Once your steak is rested, it's time for the final touches. A well-cooked steak deserves a good presentation. Let's dive into the final touches and presentation. The first step is slicing. It's essential to slice your steak against the grain. What does that mean, you ask? Well, if you take a closer look at your steak, you'll notice it has lines running through it. These lines are the muscle fibers, or the grain. Slicing against the grain helps break up these fibers, making each bite tender and easier to chew. Next up is the art of plating. The key to a beautiful plate is balance. You want a balance of colors, textures, and flavors. Start by placing your perfectly sliced steak on the plate. Add a side of vibrant greens for color contrast, and a serving of creamy mashed potatoes for a delightful textural contrast. Perhaps drizzle some of your steak's resting juices over the top for added flavor and that gourmet touch. Remember, we eat with our eyes first. The sight of a well-presented plate can heighten anticipation and enhance the overall dining experience. So, take your time, be creative, and have fun with it. Finally, a sprinkling of flaky sea salt or freshly ground black pepper can add an extra pop of flavor and a touch of elegance. It's the little details that can elevate your steak from good to great. And there you have it, a perfectly cooked, delicious-looking steak. So let's quickly recap what we've learned today. We've delved into the science behind cooking steak, mastering the Maillard reaction. We've also discussed the importance of choosing the right cut, the need for room temperature meat, and seasoning techniques. We've explored various cooking methods with an emphasis on temperature control. And let's not forget the crucial role of resting the steak and those final touches for presentation. With these tips and techniques, you're well on your way to cooking the perfect steak. Thank you for joining us on this culinary journey. We've explored the science behind cooking the perfect steak, from understanding the Maillard reaction to the importance of resting your steak. Now it's your turn to take these insights into your kitchen and start experimenting. Perhaps you're wondering about the science behind other dishes or cooking techniques. We're here to delve into those curiosities with you. Maybe you've always wanted to know the secret to a flawless souffle or why a pressure cooker makes such tender meat. Whatever your food-related questions, we want to hear them. So don't be shy. Tell us what you'd like us to explore in our next video. Engage with us in the comments below, hit the like button if you found this video helpful, and don't forget to subscribe for more culinary science adventures. Remember, cooking is an art, but it's also a science. Happy cooking!